Cheeseheads. Get on your feet. It's Curd and Long. Hosted by Sparky, Fifer, and Ryan Horvat.
Hey, it's Steve Sparky, Fifer, 1250 AM The Fan. Ryan Horvat is back, baby, co-host of BetMGM tonight, weeknights on your BetQL radio station near you, or you can just download the Odyssey app and listen each night that way as well. It gives you in-game betting advice. Him, Trista Crick, and Nick Ashu, whether it be college games, pro games, games coming up on the West Coast later, if you want to get in on betting those after you're losing the first game or whatever the case may be. Again, check them out weeknights, BetMGM tonight. Follow Ryan Horvat on Twitter at Ryan Horvat. You can follow me at Sparky Radio. Ryan Horvat was at the Super Bowl, having a good old time doing Radio Row or whatever that stuff was. Where were you guys out there at the Super Bowl, Ryan?
We were in the sports book at Mandalay Bay. We were not on Radio Row, which I would love to be on Radio Row, but the issue for us being on Radio Row is we wouldn't be able to interview the current players anyway. We would have to get all the old guys. And I don't want to interview Bill Romanowski. I want to interview Devontae Adams, but because we're a gambling show, they can't have any association with us. Yeah, so I did make my way over to Radio Row. I did sit at the craps table with Josh Allen until 5 a.m. I did sit at the roulette table with George Kittle, Sam Laporta, and Cody Bellinger's agent until 3 a.m. And as you know, I'm a Chicago Cubs fan.
Bellinger's agent Boris?
No, I thought so too, man. It's this guy. God darn it, what is his name? Hold on.
Because Ricketts, the owner of the Cubs, just got done saying that Boris likes talking to the owner and working around the GM, and he won't talk to Scott, and they haven't had any negotiations.
His name's Jack Becta. So I don't know if Cody has
Jack Becta's been around a while.
Yeah, so yeah, we it says here though, Scott Boris. So I don't know if he was BSing us or what, or if he has two agents. You know, I think he said something about being his business agent.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know, man. I was just trying to get him to play baseball this season because the Cubs, other than paying $40 million a season to Craig Counsell, didn't do a whole lot this offseason. I know that we're going to talk Packers here. If you're a smart man and I'm giving you betting advice, you just go right now and you bet the St. Louis Cardinals to win the division. You know it's coming. Nolan Arenado's having a bounce back year. Goldschmidt's, I hate him. I hate them more than anything.
They signed all.
You guys haven't been in the NL Central long enough. You don't know the pain. That's why I love your fake rivalry with us. Oh, we hate the Cub fans. They're scumbags. Yeah, meet St. Louis Cardinal fans, bud. We've been the losers in that division for the last 108 years. You came to our turf.
The Cardinals have been the Packers of this division for a long time, obviously. And I understand that. I'm just saying, if you look at their offseason, they just had a bunch of old dudes. I mean, Lance Lynn and these guys. I mean, I don't know. I'm not there. We'll see. They got some young guys coming. Whether or not they play them or not this year, we'll have to wait and find out. And their manager sucks. My Marmal's horrible. Okay, so let's talk about the Green Bay Packers. Draft time is coming up. We haven't talked to Horvat forever. I've had a bunch of different draft dudes on and so forth between now and Ryan. So can't wait to hear Ryan's thoughts on the draft because this is pretty much what we're going to be talking about probably, this and free agency if the Packers do anything. So first question first. Do you think this draft should be about winning now, saying the time is now like it was for Aaron Rodgers at the end there or Brett Favre at the end? Or should it be more about later, which is still building to the crescendo of what this team is going to be in 2 or 3 years once these wide receivers get another year older, the quarterback gets a couple more years starting? Are you building towards that crescendo, or are we saying the crescendo is now and go for it right now and drafting guys that are ready to go win a Super Bowl next year and filling holes for next year more than looking ahead? I think I summed up the question pretty good. Ryan Horvat, your chance to go.
Yeah, this was my idea for the topic because I feel like everybody goes back and forth with this. This is why I've criticized Brian Gutekunst in the past, right? And Brian Gutekunst knocked it out of the park, it looks like, in the last draft. Obviously, Jordan Love seems like it was the right pick. I mean, we had to wait years, and we watched Aaron Rodgers win 2 MVPs and be a game away from a Super Bowl. But Jordan Love's the real deal. It looks like right now. I don't think there's going to be any regression next season. But I think where you're sitting, right, pick 25, if you really want a guy, you can move up and you could get that guy. And I think this team has some needs, but also look what this team did the second half of the season. This was a team that was right there. I mean, they could have easily been playing in the Super Bowl, man. They could have beat San Francisco. And I thought we were going to get some regression coming from Detroit if Ben Johnson were to leave, but he didn't. He's going to be calling plays, and that means that Jared Goff's probably not going to go back to being the pumpkin that he was the final couple of years in Los Angeles with the Rams. So I don't expect much of a drop-off. If anything, if they fix up their pass defense, because that's the Lions' only issue. Offensively, they're a juggernaut, and defensively, good pass rush, really good run defense, but they need some help in the secondary. So I think they're going to be even better. Minnesota all of a sudden has a top 10 defense. I don't know if they go like the JJ McCarthy route, or if they bring back Kirk Cousins, probably going to get their quarterback in the future. So maybe we don't have to worry about them as much. And then the Bears, I hate to say it, Bears have a lot of cap space. They all of a sudden, the second half of the season, also had a top 10 defense, right? The defense was really good. And they're going to get Caleb Williams. And I think Caleb Williams is going to be awesome. I'll go back and forth with anybody on that. I think he's going to be good. I think Drake May is going to be good. And I think Jaden Daniels has a shot to be really good too. After that, I really don't know. Like, I wouldn't want Michael Penix, Bo Nix for my team. But I would want those first three guys. I think Caleb's going to be awesome. He's going to break the quarterback curse. And it's going to be an awesome rivalry once again. Jordan Love against Caleb Williams for years. So what I'm saying is, like, now, while Detroit still has a leaky pass defense and isn't a perfect football team, even though they do bring back Ben Johnson, and while Chicago is still going to be kind of like a rebuild, because Chicago's not going to be ready to win a Super Bowl next year, but Green Bay could be, man. If Jordan Love plays like that, he's a top 5 quarterback in the league. I know that I'm seeing like these headlines that Aaron Jones might be a cap casualty. I don't think you could do so.
No chance.
I'm not for like, I'm not for like bringing in like Derrick Henry, right? Or like Austin Eckler. Like, I don't want old running backs, but Aaron Jones is really important in that locker room. We see that with the young dudes. Yep. And also what he did the final couple weeks of the season and in the playoff games, man, there was no drop off. I don't think there's going to be a major drop off. You probably AJ Dillon, goodbye. I would love a power back though, to complement Aaron Jones, maybe you do save him for the end of the season. He doesn't need 25 touches, not at least carries. You could use him a little bit more, maybe in the slot or as a pass catcher. What I'm saying is long-winded here. I think it's all about going in and winning right now. You have the 25th pick. I would love Kool-Aid McKinstry. I would love some safety play, better safety play. I would love another pass rusher, especially I know they just paid Rashawn Gary, but where the hell was he the final couple weeks of the season and in the playoffs, right? I also saw Kenny Clark's name as a possible cap casualty. I don't think that that's going to happen, but they got to get those guys some help. I think this draft is about fixing up that defense. If you want, you could throw. I don't think you even throw money to wide receiver, man. I don't. I like the guys that they have. Jaden Reed's only going to be better. It would be magnificent if Christian Watson can stay healthy for 12 games. I'll take, right, and for a playoff run. Romeo Doubs was a big game player. We got Wicks. You could get your receivers in like the 4th, 5th round. And also, like, this year is the year that you could do that. Like, I have my stupid draft thing. I think that I say this every year, though. This is one of the deepest wide receiver classes ever. I'm going to like a lot of those guys. Maybe you get like Polk from Washington in like the 3rd or 4th round, right? But you don't need, like, this team doesn't need Marvin Harrison or Malik Neighbors. They really don't. Like, the Packers, I've always been trade for OBJ, trade for this guy. And if it helps your team, like, do that. But I don't think that they need to trade up and get one of these big play receivers. It would be cool, like, to get the flashy guy for once, to get the Brock Bowers, but they're loaded at tight end. It's like, how are we going to get all these guys targets, right? That might be the biggest problem next year. So offensive line's great. Bakhtiari's gone. That was the number 2 pass blocking offensive line in the National Football League. Look what they did, the run blocking in the playoffs against some good defenses. I know San Francisco and the Cowboys' run defense was leaky, but still, Green Bay was able to run the ball. So I think this draft, you got to fix up the defense. So if your guy's there and you got to trade up a little bit earlier, I would love, like I said, Kool-Aid McKinstry. I would love another pass rusher. I think this draft is about winning now because I think this team's good enough to win a Super Bowl. I bet them to win the Super Bowl. I bet $100. They're 25-1. I think that price is insane, right? Like, we all just expect San Francisco is going to be back. They have the best odds to win the Super Bowl. How many deep runs are they going to make? Like, they're healthy every year. They have a couple injuries, but they're always healthy, right? How do we know there's not going to be the injury regression? That's what I called for Cincinnati this season in the AFC, and it happened. And also, like, is Brock Purdy going to have another year like he had? I think Jordan Love's better than Brock Purdy. San Francisco's still loaded. Is Philadelphia just going to be better? I don't know. It's Detroit. They just won the division for the first time since 1992. Is that going to happen again? So I think this is a year to go all in, man. Jordan Love has waited a long time for his turn. You could call me a hater. I'm not a hater now. I want to see, like, get that defense fixed up. You fired the idiot, Joe Barry. Sorry, that was rude. You brought in a guy that we think has a clue. I actually really like this hire, man. I think this is going to be something that we see a little bit more of in the NFL, plucking guys from college, former head coaches, right? Like defensive-minded head coaches. And I'm excited, but I think you got to try to win now this year. Do you agree?
I could have bet everything I own that Ryan Horvat would have said, let's go all in this year. I could have bet it.
I say it every year, and you guys yell at me like the goal is you win in Green Bay.
Correct. Yeah. That's my point. My point is you're very consistent. Like, you never waver on this sentiment about how you want to approach the draft or free agency. You always play for the present and worry about the future when we get there, but let's play for the present. So I knew you were going this way for sure. I agree with a lot of what you said as far as they have every chance to be a Super Bowl type team next year. No question. And I agree with you that they could have beat San Francisco. No question. Sure. And if they would have got Detroit, I think they could have beat Detroit too. They already beat Detroit just a few weeks earlier on Thanksgiving or whatever. So from that perspective, yes, I think they have every opportunity to do that. I don't think you're going to see future plays outside of running back, but even when they draft a running back and say the second or third round, the future play is going to be to replace Aaron Jones in a year or two. But unlike quarterback, where that guy never gets to play, if the guy in front of him is playing, you still will see said running back play, get some carries in the course of a game. It's not going to be A.J. Dillon. I differ from you on this. I don't want another damn bruising running back. I'm done with them. I don't want anything more of them. Find me Aaron Jones duplicate. Find me somebody that can go out and catch passes, that can run away from people, that can be a home run type player, that's yards after catch type guy. Yes, that is my favorite player in the draft, Bucky Irving. But to me, that's what I want. I don't want Braylon Allen. I again, might be great, might be fine in the NFL. I don't want that. I want more, like you said, Bucky Irving, that type of player. Okay. So that might be a future type pick where he doesn't start this year, but he's still going to play.
Oh, yeah.
Then we look at the offensive line. I disagree. I want, if we start talking about first round, I want another tackle. With all due respect to Rasheed Walker on Zach Tom, I still think, and Goody pretty much was open to it, but pretty much shot it down. The idea of Zach Tom moving inside the guard to have a right tackle next to him. Because right now, if Zach Tom and Elton Jenkins are your guards, you have the best guards in the NFL. Period. It's not even close. Center is still a question. But then you have your tackles to be talked about. There are going to be 3 or 4 maybe tackles there for the Packers at 25. That could end up being a starting right tackle in the NFL right away next year. If Zach Tom slides inside to right guard, you can easily do that. Or if there's somebody there that you like, that could be a left tackle, but maybe because they didn't play a lot of college snaps, like Mims or whatever, maybe that guy is your left tackle in a year or two if Rasheed Walker can't figure it out. Rasheed Walker got better, yes, as the season went on. Not bashing Rasheed Walker. But even Stenovich, the offensive coordinator, even said that, hey, look, I'm not penciling him in at left tackle for the next 10 years. He's still got stuff to work on, which tells me that as much as he got better, they themselves, as a coaching staff, still isn't necessarily sold on him. We've seen them take offensive linemen in the first round before under Ted. So we know it's something they're willing to do at the end of the first round. So I think offensive line makes sense. Corner, safety, yes, all in on that. Have to draft those guys multiple times in the draft. Linebacker, middle linebacker, I think it's something you got to consider too. I mean, I don't. Devondre Campbell, I think he's gone. So once he's gone, now you start talking about, okay, now what does that middle linebacker depth look like? It's not very deep. So they need to draft 1 or 2 middle linebackers here and hope they hit on one of them at some point. But that guy's not in the first round, right? You're going to get that guy later in the draft, second, third round, whatever. But the question is drafting about winning now or later. I'm not going to be bent out of shape if they go future. I just don't think that they're in a position where guys they draft won't play. You know what I mean? I think there's still enough holes on this team that pretty much anybody they play is probably going to start week 1 for this team. Outside of maybe running back, right? Quarterback, there's not drafting. They have Clifford as a backup, so quarterback's out. But outside of those positions, offensive line, that guy could start. Wide receiver, if they decide to go flashy, like say Keon Coleman, if he's there, I just did a mock draft on Pro Football Network last night. He was there at 25 for the Packers. Played with Jaden Reed at Michigan State, whatever. If he's there and they take him, I mean, I don't know if he's going to start, but got a good chance he's going to play right away if they take him in the first round.
I'd be kind of mad. I love Keon Coleman. I might be mad if they went wide receiver in the first round this year.
I don't know. I'm just saying. So on the defensive side of the ball, middle linebacker could start. Corner is going to start. Safety is definitely going to start. I mean, they could draft both their starting safeties in this draft that could be starting next year and then just go through the pitfalls of having both safeties playing together as an inexperienced safety group. I'd rather sign a veteran free agent safety and draft a rookie so you don't have two rookies back there. But I guess I think it's about winning now. I guess that's where I'm at. Because I don't think there's any chance they could have a Dylan DeGuara Love draft this year. Because that team had a bunch of vets and spots were pretty much solidified around that football team for the most part. You were just looking to upgrade wide receiver for sure, like you always were back then. And that guy could come in. This year, pretty much anywhere you draft, the guy's probably going to play first round, second round, maybe even third round. They're going to have a chance to play right away, come in, compete, and possibly start for this football team because there are a lot of question marks, I think, and even as good as they were, areas of concern possibly, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, and I want to load up on the defense. So a couple things there. Yeah, I mean, if they take a tackle at 25, especially if like Mims is available, I'm completely fine with that. But I do think that there's going to be some value actually in the later rounds, actually at the tackle position. Like a guy like Patrick Paul, I haven't heard a lot of people talk about. Maybe they have been from Houston. I kind of like him. There's a couple guys that are going to go a little bit later on. Kingsley, whatever the hell his name is from BYU, I actually like a little bit. And then, a little bit later on, there's some guys. We'll talk about that. But I feel like now with Green Bay, like I listened to all those interviews on Radio Row and I listened to Jordan Love on these podcasts, even like the Micah Parsons podcast that he was on. He's confident with the guys that he has. So like Keon Coleman would be great. Don't get me wrong, like another weapon. I just don't think that they need it. And here's why. If you go back to the second matchup against Detroit, unless Detroit gets like the two best corners in the draft, right, or really fixes up that pass defense, LaFleur figured them out, man. They were playing gobs of man defense for whatever reason, and Jordan Love just completely torched them. Jordan Love against Kansas City. Steve Spagnuolo is a defensive genius. I think he might be the best defensive coordinator in the league. He's not a head coach, but he's a great coordinator.
Yep.
Look what Jordan Love did against the Chiefs, man. And it's because LaFleur was in his bag that game. He realized, like, you could run to the outside. You could run off tackle on the Chiefs. They give up almost 6 yards per carry, which makes no sense that Baltimore didn't beat them because that's like what Lamar Jackson and those running backs do. And the running backs had 6 carries, but LaFleur was really good against them. I'm just saying, like, offensively, I think they really figured some stuff out to where you're going to get some value later on. I'll be fine with it if it's a tackler, if it's Keon Coleman. But, man, I really want to fix up this defense. And the reason being, if Jordan Love is as good as we think, and I'm not comparing him to Pat Mahomes, but he did beat Pat Mahomes.
But is he going to be do you think he's a Pro Bowler?
But right, yeah. And I think that he's more than a game manager. He's more than a Brock Purdy. So what I'm saying is look how the Chiefs won that Super Bowl. The Chiefs have won back-to-back Super Bowls after trading away Tyreek Hill. I love Aaron Rodgers, but the Packers traded away Devontae Adams, and Aaron Rodgers was a shell of himself that season, and the Packers missed out on the playoffs, right? Jordan Love right now has no ego. He works out with these dudes. He works with these dudes in the offseason. He's got the arm. And all of a sudden, here's what changed the second half of the season. Jordan Love, all of a sudden, like LaFleur was much better, right? They started using play action, but also, they were able to run the ball. And it was just like not Jordan Love. Like the offense early on in the season wasn't good on standard downs. It wasn't good on down to down. So the only success that they had was explosive plays, and they weren't hitting those. Later on in the season, when they got the run game humming and A.J. Dillon was running the ball a little bit better and Aaron Jones, then all of a sudden Jordan Love was going through his progressions, which is something that he didn't do at Utah State, which is always what scared the hell out of me. Like it's what scares the hell out of me a little bit about Jaden Daniels. I really like Jaden Daniels, but I wouldn't really want Green Bay to draft him. Let somebody else draft him. And like, I'll be wrong, maybe because like, I think he could be Lamar, but also he could be Justin Fields. That's Justin Fields' issue. I love Justin Fields, but he's a one-read quarterback. He doesn't go through all of his progressions. Jordan Love was taking not only like the short stuff and not only the deep stuff, but he was taking the intermediate, like the middle stuff too. Like he was just much better, man. So what I'm saying is if you build the defense like the Chiefs defense, where you fix up that secondary, you get some physical guys, you're not getting torched in the freaking middle of the field like always. You get better coverage linebackers. This team could win a Super Bowl. Like the Chiefs traded away Tyreek Hill, and since then, Tyreek Hill, top 10 receiver in this league, maybe top 5. People were calling him the MVP, and they've won 2 straight Super Bowls. So like they don't need the flashy wide receiver. We were all wrong. They need the defense. But we've all been calling for that, right? Everybody in Green Bay. We are so sick of AJ Hawk and Blake Martinez and Nick frickin' Perry and Sam Barrington and all these guys who should be backups in this league. You know, like Nick Perry had 1 season where he had 13 sacks. Did he have 13 sacks after he made $30 million or whatever it was that we paid him? Absolutely not. Draft the right guys, get the right coordinators, and this team will win. Because the offense has never been the issue. Rodgers is not the reason. I know there's all the Rodgers haters. Call him a choke artist or what you want. Rodgers with the Chiefs defense would have won the Super Bowl this year. Rodgers, if he had any sort of defense, he had a top 10 defense one time in Green Bay. They won the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like if you give that to Jordan Love, he's going to win multiple rings. If you don't, he's going to maybe win 1. And then it's, Brett Favre, 1 ring. Rodgers, 1 ring. What do they all have in common? They never had a defense. You know what I mean? Like we were watching old ass John Elway flip into the end zone.
Favre threw a lot of interceptions in the postseason. A lot. I mean, Favre cost them a lot of games. I'm not saying Rodgers. I'm saying Brett. So
Rodgers was the perfect game manager in the playoffs. Like Rodgers with the Patriots defense would have been Tom Brady. I'll fight people on that all day long.
I agree.
Mahomes is much better than Rodgers and Brady. I'll die on that hill too. But Rodgers should have won more with a real defense. So that's what I think this team should do. You try to win now and you try to do it with defense because that's what the Chiefs did. That's what the Ravens do. That's what the Niners do. All these teams, that are playing football late in the season, like, you know what I mean? Defense wins championships. Brady won that Super Bowl with Tampa because of that pass rush. They beat the crap out of Rodgers in the NFC Championship game because there was no Bakhtiari.
Yep, absolutely right. Take a quick time. I'll come back. I want to talk about guys that Ryan likes going into this draft. Friday when we do our next Kurt and Long podcast. And again, these podcasts, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, drop by 5 p.m. on your Odyssey app, wherever you download your favorite podcast, Spotify, Apple, whatever the case may be. You can watch us on YouTube as well on the Odyssey Sports YouTube page. We live stream these. Usually we record these Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays around noon Central, depending on our schedules. That could change, but that's kind of when we record them and we're live. Horvat, I want to hear who you really like. I've been talking nonstop while you've been gone about who I like with all these different draft guys. So people know who I like for the most part. I'm curious to hear who Ryan Horvat likes. We'll do that coming up next here on Kurt and Long. Hey, it's Sparky Fifer, 1250 AM The Fan. Beautiful Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Check out the interviews I do over at 1250amthefan.com. Ryan Horvat over there, co-host of BetMGM Tonight. Trista Crick, Nick Ashu. Weeknights, you can check them out on the BetQL radio station near you or simply listen on your Odyssey app, and they'll keep you entertained throughout the games and during the evening. Tell you some in-game betting advice, give you some betting advice for the West Coast games. And a lot of fun to listen to, and you will laugh probably quite a bit. All right, so topic number 2, and the question is, who are the guys that you really like right now in the draft? Now, it's early. Combine is coming up here shortly, right? So we have the NFL Combine. Then we have pro days, so we're going to get more numbers and more grades, and people are going to overreact to all this crap. Yeah. And then we're going to get to the draft at the end of April, and we'll finally see. So a lot of draft talk between now and April. All right, Ryan Horvat, as of right now, as we sit here in about the middle to late February, who are a couple of the guys that you really like?
All right, so really quick, like not realistic guys for Green Bay, but I do think Caleb Williams is the best player in this draft. I think he's going to be an absolute stud. I also think that Drake May is going to be really damn good. So I would make them 1 and 2 in this draft. Marvin Harrison, we've had a couple guys on draft evaluators, draft analysts, and just like my eyeball test too. He's the best wide receiver in this draft, and it's not really close. But Malik Neighbors is like really damn good. Like if Green Bay was ever going to do something crazy, move up for a skill position player, and they got Malik Neighbors, Jordan Love has a top 10 receiver in this league. I feel the way I feel about Malik Neighbors this draft is how I felt about T. Higgins a couple years ago. And everybody knows, obviously, how I felt about T.
Yes.
Higgins. I like Joe out, but, like there were some concerning things. If you go on YouTube, even if you want, or if you go back and you watch like the Louisville game, like they were knocking him on his ass, man. Like he was getting put on his ass by guys that were like 242 pounds. That was a little concerning. but I do think he's the best tackle in this draft. Now, realistic options for Green Bay. I really like Coop from Iowa, but I don't know that I want Green Bay to draft him. I kind of want somebody else to draft him, like a white DB. We haven't seen it since Jason Sehorn. I think he's awesome, man. I really do. But I think Kool-Aid McKinstry is much better. And like when I look at the Pro Football Focus rankings, they have Coop number 8. Like they have him way above Kool-Aid McKinstry. And then they have Nate Wiggins from Clemson.
That's what I like.
13. I like Nate Wiggins too, but I like Kool-Aid McKinstry number 1. The only thing that scares me is the last time I really wanted a guy from Bama, it was Clinton Dix, which was nice for a season, but then after that, not so nice. But yeah, I like Nate Wiggins a lot too. Clemson's defense has not been the issue the last couple of years. It's been, they don't have a wide receiver that could create any separation, so they don't score any points. Nate Wiggins, I think he could be a shutdown corner. I would love to see Jair stay and you pair him with Nate Wiggins. I think Nate Wiggins will be what we wanted Eric Stokes to be.
Agreed.
But I do think Kool-Aid McKinstry will be better. I think Terrion Arnold, the other DB from Bama, I really like him. If Jared Verse were to slip in this draft, like if teams lost their minds and Dallas Turner goes and maybe like some project goes, I would love Jared Verse. I think he's going to be the best edge rusher in this draft. Another tackle that I really like, I know you like a tackle in this draft. I like J.C. Latham from Alabama. Alabama's offensive line didn't really live up to expectations the last couple of years, but he wasn't the issue, and he's a big dude. And I think he's the kind of guy where if he goes to Green Bay, he's going to be one of those guys that like by week 6, week 7 is going to be like a top 10 tackle in the league. Like there might be like a little bit of a learning curve going from Bama to, I don't know about that actually, man. I think he might be good right away. I like Mims from Georgia. I think he could actually play both tackle positions, like you said. At least I think you said that. I like Braylon Trice from Washington, edge rusher. I like Braswell from Alabama, edge rusher. The only thing is, man, with Alabama, there were games where they just got like absolutely no pressure. I like Ladd McConkey from Georgia. If he slips to the second round, the third round, and they are going to go wide receiver, I think he would be like the perfect slot wide receiver. I think he's going to have a long career, like 7-8 years. And then the other, because I want a DB. I like TJ Tampa from Iowa State. I love that freaking defense, man. Like that's the one thing Matt Campbell could do is coach defense. And then I like Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo. If you
Senior Bowl really helped him. Yep,
that really helped him. And if you like Maction, man, I think he's locked down. There's a couple safeties I really like. I don't know when you go safety. I don't know that I go safety in the first round, maybe in the second round if one of these guys slip. I like the Leggett kid from South Carolina, Xavier Leggett. I like Kalen King from Penn State. He's a DB, but I got to throw him out there. I really do like him. I think he could be a stud. I like Kalen Bullock from USC. The only thing that scares me is like he was the safety on historically one of the worst defenses in college football history. But I think he could be pretty damn good.
And that defensive coordinator is now a coach for the Badgers, by the way. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. I don't know, man. I like the Vaki kid from Utah. He's just like an absolute weapon. He was also their best running back the final 4 weeks of the season.
That's
and I
crazy.
kind of like that because, yeah, and he plays special teams and he loves special teams. And what does Green Bay suffer with struggle with every year? Special teams.
Yep.
So I wouldn't hate that. And then a couple other guys. I like Javon Bullard, another safety from Georgia. Yeah. He might go second or third round. That's the thing. I don't know where a lot of these guys are going to go. I like Tyke Smith, the other safety from Georgia. I like both safeties from Georgia.
What about Kinchins from Miami? If Kinchins from Miami is there at 25, super fast, big center field type safety, do you take him at 25 in the first round?
I don't think I do it at 25 because I think that if he's still sitting there at 25, I honestly think that he's going to be there when you pick in the second round.
At 41. And if he's not there, the safety from Minnesota might be there. Newman or whatever his name is.
Oh, you know another guy I want to throw out there? Edge Chop Robinson. I love Chop Robinson. Like if you listen to my college football show, I hate Penn State football. I hate James Franklin, but I absolutely love Chop Robinson. He was a stud at Maryland. And then he went to Penn State. He had an injury, but I think especially he's the kind of guy that if you pair him with Rashawn Gary, it's going to open things up for one of them. One of those guys is going to have double-digit sacks. It's either going to be Chop, who does have a couple things that he has to work on, or it's going to be like Rashawn Gary finally has the breakout season that we're waiting for, especially because they paid him all that money. So I do really like him. I don't know if I said his name. Another tackle that I really like is Tyler Guyton. I wouldn't even hate Tyler Guyton at pick 25 because I don't think
he should be there.
Yeah, so I wouldn't hate that if that's really what you want. But those are the guys I really like for Green Bay. And then just some other guys to throw out there. You brought up Keon Coleman. I think he's going to be a stud. I think McConkey, like I said, is going to be a stud. I really like Troy Franklin, wide receiver from Oregon. I think he's going to be a really good slot wide receiver. Brian Thomas Jr., another wide receiver from LSU.
He's going to be there at 25 probably.
That's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of these guys are going to slip to the second and third round because people are going to need tackles. People are going to need pass rushers. These safeties are going to go, and these DBs are pretty damn good.
What if Brian Thomas is there at 25?
Yeah, I don't hate that. Again, I want to go defense, but I don't hate that pick. That's your wide receiver number 1 right there. Jaden Reed becomes wide receiver number 2.
And then you don't worry about Christian Watson as much.
Yeah, but he's like, I don't want to like give up on Christian Watson either, because if he's able to stay healthy,
no, but my point is, this is a big, fast wide receiver like you have in Watson. Now, when Watson goes down with an injury, which is bound to happen, now you're not without that guy, that type of player. You still have a guy that can do everything he does, and your offense doesn't have to recalibrate to try and overcome him not being there. Which, by the way, that rookie year with Rodgers and Watson, the offense literally did not know what the hell to do without Christian Watson. And then Watson came back, and then the offense finally picked up where it was supposed to be. LaFleur learned his lesson, came back this year, and with a draft of wide receivers. And when Watson went down, the offense really didn't change or sputter or anything. Like, the offense just kept moving with the wide receivers they had, even though they didn't have a Christian Watson type. So that's why I'm saying, if this Brian Thomas dude is there, and he might be, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think the more you and I talk about this, the more convinced I am they're trading back. They're not going to stay there. They're going to trade back.
And they're going to.
And when they trade back, I've said this before in other podcasts, I want to pick next year. I don't need more damn picks this year. We got enough. So if we're going to go from 25 to 30, that's fine. Then give me your second round pick next year, and we'll flip 25 and 30. I'll go back 5 spots. You give me your second, and we'll move forward. Because I like the position of having multiple 2s and multiple 3s like they have this year. Because it allows you the opportunity, like you said, that if you want to go up in the first round, you have multiple 2s and multiple 3s, and you can mix and match whatever you want to go with 25 to go up into the first round to go get a stud. If you think there is a stud there, that'll kind of put you over the top. I like having that versatility. With 5 picks in the first 3 rounds, they don't need more damn draft picks this year by trading back. But I'll take draft picks next year.
All right. So, you know what? I got to answer the question. I don't want a wide receiver. I want Kool-Aid McKinstry. I'll tell you why I want him, right? I got everything right here. So in 2021, he played 479 defensive snaps. In 2022, 872. Last year, 848. His Pro Football Focus grade, 88.8 last year, 82.5 the year before. He's only given up every year of his career, his 3-year career. He only gave up 1 touchdown. He only saw 39 targets this season, and he only gave up 19 receptions on 39 targets for 205 yards. The year before that, he saw 80 targets. He only gave up 37 receptions for 352 yards. He had 10 forced incompletions, which was tied for 73rd in the country, which is impressive because they weren't targeting him. He could tackle a little bit, right? Like, if you look at his man coverage grade, he's better in zone. He is at 83.8 in zone, 74.7 in man. But he only had 1 dropped interception, and he only had 3 missed tackles this season. And, I'm so sick of – I love Jair, but I hate watching him, like, throw that shoulder around and just dive people's legs and make no attempt. Kool-Aid will get physical out there, at least the first couple of years of his career. That's who I want. I don't think it's a reach. I don't think if you have to move up to get him, I'm fine with that. I think he's going to be the best corner in this draft. I really do.
All right, that'll do it for the Curd and Long podcast today. Thanks so much for tuning in. On the way out here, I just want to do a quick mention of some sad news from back in the day of the WSSP family. Ron Davies, who did the scoreboard show with Mike McGivern for all those years on WSSP, passed away the other day. So thoughts and prayers to him and his family. And his funeral and visitation stuff is set up on Saturday. I'm sure you can find and Google the information on that if you'd like. So that'll do it for another edition of Curd and Long. Enjoy the rest of your day.